think about talking watches and how huge that is. So now they own that, right?
Yeah.
So that is a big benefit to them. So I think what they bought was opportunity to bring Hodinkee back as the most respected name in watch reviews.
Yeah, a lot of people love Ben in general.
I love Ben.
He has a big affinity with the watch community.
Yeah.
And it has nothing to do with him. It has more to do with the company that it's become, Hodinkee, and all the external and the being super commercialized for such a long time and now trying to move back to the roots.
Welcome to the Watch Bros. I'm Jason.
And I'm Felix.
And today we have some really big news. I'd call it breaking news.
Yeah,
right? Breaking
as
news.
of recent.
So normally we record these, and usually you see them, I'd say a week, sometimes 2 weeks after we record them.
Yeah.
We're recording this on Monday.
Hot off the press.
Yeah, hot off the press from news last week.
Yeah.
We're recording this Monday. We're going to post this tomorrow.
Yeah.
So, and that breaking news, by the way, is that Hodinkee has been acquired by Watches of Switzerland. This is a massive shift for Hodinkee. There are some similarities, but then we'll discuss, I think, what those differences are.
Yeah.
Before we jump into it, we'll do a wrist check real quick. Today, I am wearing my AP.
Sexy AP.
Yeah.
The watch. Not you. Let's
Yeah.
distinguish that. The watch.
Well, it makes me sexy, I think. So I feel sexy.
Yeah, when you wear it.
When I wear it.
It is the watch.
But this is my AP Royal Oak. It's the 15510OR. And I love this watch. It's great. Precious metal. It's on rubber. The dial, obviously, is very beautiful and alluring. And it's just a great piece. And I'm rocking it today. What about you?
Best watch you have. For me today, very fitting for today's episode, I'm wearing a Hodinkee collaboration with G-Shock, but also Online Ceramics. So this was released not that long ago, and also was on sale not that long ago as well.
It's been on sale like 10 times.
Yeah, so there was a lot happening there, which we'll discuss further in. But I bought this watch reduced price, but then again they even reduced it for what I bought it for.
Yeah.
But it is a very nice watch. The Online Ceramics collaboration, green, beautiful red and yellow tone as well, and it is a G-Shock in its nature with the standard look, but it's very unique and I think it just looks good. It's a very creative watch.
It's a fantastic watch.
Yeah, it's a really nice piece for $125 is I think what it retailed for originally.
That colorway is super sick. Okay. Let's jump into this breaking news. And I think what we'll go over is, what does this mean for Hodinkee? What does it mean for us as collectors and enthusiasts? So let's get into it. Watches of Switzerland is now the sole shareholder of Hodinkee.
Wow.
Nobody else has any stake in that business at all anymore. All commercial activities, limited edition collaborations, and retail traffic will now direct to Watches of Switzerland e-commerce platform. Hodinkee Insurance will still continue with the collaboration of Chubb. I'm not quite sure yet how that plays into Watches of Switzerland, but they own it. So, I guess maybe they're allowing that as an outside line.
Yeah.
But they still have ownership of the Hodinkee insurance program. How was this purchase financed? I think everybody is very interested knowing the changes that Hodinkee has gone through starting in 2020. And basically, Watches of Switzerland, while they have not released what they've purchased this for, they're pretty transparent in saying that they financed this using existing funds. So what does that mean? It sounds like they purchased Hodinkee with just their liquid assets.
Yeah.
They didn't go raise any money, and they didn't have to go and get a loan to purchase Hodinkee. So they just financed it with cash on hand.
Raises some questions.
Which is insane.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you why I think it's insane. So while the exact price hasn't been mentioned, we know that back in 2021, Hodinkee was valuated at about $100 million. And so what they went from valuated at $100 million. Obviously, we know they've had a ton of struggles. But what did Watches of Switzerland purchase it for? LVMH infused about, or when Hodinkee was raising capital in 2020, they put in about $40 million. Mm-hmm. They raised capital from some other outside sources as well, including John Mayer, by the way. Mm-hmm. And then they turned around and purchased Crown and Caliber in early 2021. So they used all of that fundraising, purchased Crown and Caliber, which at the time looked like a really good purchase.
Yeah.
Watch market was obviously at its peak. It was at its hottest. Nobody knew it was at its peak at the time. What Watches of Switzerland may have purchased it for? Well, we know LVMH is one of the largest conglomerates in the world, and they paid $40 million to have ownership of Hodinkee. I guess what I'm saying, I don't think they paid any more than $40 million.
Yeah.
And my gut tells me that they probably got it at a discount.
That would be reasonable.
Less, and LVMH was like, let's just wipe our hands clean of this. You guys take it. Yeah. Right. Let's go into a little bit of the backstory on Hodinkee's struggles for our viewers. So it's really started with the acquisition by LVMH in 2020. And what happened was, I think a lot of watch collectors and enthusiasts, they were concerned over whether Hodinkee's reviews were going to be biased. Were they going to stay unbiased, or were they going to be biased? And I think quickly a lot of people felt like there were some biased reviews, mm-hmm. even paid reviews, right? And so when you start doing reviews for payment, you're going to lose confidence with your audience pretty quickly.
Yeah, for sure.
And that was a one major issue and struggle that Hodinkee has had since LVMH acquired them. The other poor business decisions are the acquisition of Crown and Caliber, which we just talked about. They purchased them for $46 million in February of 2021. By the end of 2022, the watch market was in full decline. And Crown and Caliber obviously had bought most of their stock at the height. And so that is really what put them in financial trouble back in the end of 2022 through 2023. They were really struggling financially. So because of that, they started layoffs, multiple rounds of layoffs, but it's thought that about 75% of the total workforce has been laid off. There's only about 25% of employees remaining today. Hodinkee lost trust. They just lost a ton of trust. And basically what we just talked about, because people believed that their reviews were biased, and also they became out of touch with their readers and their viewers by focusing on selling watches and doing things outside of what watch enthusiasts are interested in. Mm-hmm. They started doing stuff on cars. They started doing stuff on high fashion. And while maybe some of that overlaps, it's not what your core collector and enthusiast is interested in.
You built your community with watch people, that's what you kind of have to stick to.
That's what they want. That's what they're going to your site for. They want to read about watches, or if they're on YouTube, they want to see watch content, right? So that's really the struggles that Hodinkee had. And if you could summarize that decline, it began with them, again, trying to grow at all costs, mm-hmm. and having blinders up at what they were doing by trying to grow larger. And they alienated its core audience by shifting its focus. And that really is the summary of their decline. Now they have shifted back, right? Mm-hmm. So Ben released in July of this year, he released a statement, which I'll read a small summary from. Today, I am here to tell you that moving forward, Hodinkee's primary focus will once again be creating the world's most detailed, engaging, and entertaining watch content. That's what he said back in July. I think the rub is he's saying that they're focused on this and that they're getting out of selling watches, but then last week they were bought by one of the largest watch retailers in the world. So that statement and what has happened don't quite
They don't
match.
align.
They don't. And that has brought concern.
Yeah, I think he's trying to appease some of that concern, right? The anxiety of people who do follow Hodinkee as a reliable source of news and watch content. But unfortunately, I think they've lost a lot of the reputation of being a credible source, and other people are more looking for the independent creators and not a company to release news on watches anymore.
Yes. Well, let's jump into Ben's latest response after they were acquired. And basically he says, I am coming back to Hodinkee full time as president and primary decision maker. Watches of Switzerland is the right partner for me in this business, and now is the right time. As some of you may know, I stepped down as CEO in 2020 and took a bit of time for myself and my family. With that, ownership and control of Hodinkee was no longer with me. Yes, I remained a board member, and yes, I was still a part of the team, but not in the way I think you may want me to be. As of today, the moment this story is published, I am indeed the primary leader of Hodinkee, and as of today, there should be no confusion about ownership. We are part of the Watches of Switzerland group, fully, proudly, and henceforth. It's a very strong statement.
It's a very odd statement with what's happening. This doesn't settle right, you know? It sounds like he's trying to say, Hodinkee is still Hodinkee. We were just bought out, but they have no affiliation. They're just part owner, you know?
That's what he's trying to say.
Yeah.
He's trying to say, hey, listen, we were bought by a large watch retailer, but we're going to operate separate. They're going to handle the selling of watches. We're going to handle all of the content.
Yeah, the editorial side.
Right. Now, what are the concerns about this acquisition? The concern is obviously a conflict of interest.
Mm-hmm.
So how is this different from the LVMH ownership compared to Watches of Switzerland? I think what I will say is LVMH is a conglomerate that owns these watch brands. Watches of Switzerland is just selling.
They're a retailer.
They're a retailer. So maybe the biased reviews that people felt like were happening, maybe that does go away. But I still think that there is this cloud that's always going to be over them, knowing that even a watch retailer owns them.
Yeah, and here's what I believe about it is knowing that they are one of the biggest watch retailers, there's naturally an inclination to be biased towards the watches you're selling because you still want them to sell. I won't get into details about it, but I did watch a video of a guy named George who made a video about the whole Hodinkee purchase. He used to be an employee of Watches of Switzerland, and he's not a big watch channel at all, but he made a video just tearing Rolex watches, and that got him fired from his job because they said, we can't have you be an employee and also publicly speak against one of the brands that, you know, we're retailing. So that does lead to open interpretation. If Ben Clymer is saying at its source, we're an unbiased news source, you know, we're only sticking to content, there needs to be an approach of, hey, we do understand there's going to be a little bit of biases with who owns you now. You don't want to talk down one of the biggest retailers, you know?
Right. At best, are you tiptoeing around some negative view that you may have about a watch when you're reviewing it, knowing that Watches of Switzerland sells that watch?
Yeah, and I think 100% it's inevitable. They're going to have to, you know, that's not going to be a full transparent review.
So what you're speaking of is this acquisition could lead to lack of objectivity.
Yeah.
Right? And we've covered the LVMH. Maybe it's not that much different. I think the hope is that it will be different.
Yeah.
Time will tell on that. I do think that people are still going to be very weary
100%.
of that content that they produce. Yes, this has helped them live to fight another day, but at what cost?
Right.
So when I think of this, my personal take, now that we've run through a little bit of what's happened, how did we get here, and what does it mean, my personal take is I tremendously enjoy their content. And I would say So I joined Watch You Seek, which is a huge online watch forum and community. I joined that back in 2012. So I had started dabbling in watch collecting around that same time as when I discovered Hodinkee.
Yeah.
And that was a huge part of my watch collecting journey and gathering knowledge and learning. And what I would say is back then, what they provided was they almost made it feel cool to collect watches, because you felt like, besides Watch You Seek and Hodinkee, you felt like you were alone collecting watches. People just didn't talk about it, and there wasn't the community that there is today.
Yeah.
And so for me, it made me feel like I was a part of something, and a part of something cool.
Yeah.
With Hodinkee. And I think I still feel like they can provide that, but if they are going to be able to bring back core collectors and enthusiasts, you're a newer collector. How do you perceive Hodinkee or other new collectors that you talk to now? What's their feedback on Hodinkee as a brand and as a resource today?
I think it's hard to distinguish Hodinkee away from the community, right? I would never be as far-fetched, and maybe it's blasphemous to say that Hodinkee is not at its core a content media group around watches. That is what they do. They're very editorial. They just want to review watches, talk about watches. And I don't think this acquisition takes that away. I don't think they're going to shift to a commercialized sell me a watch per video. I think they will still remain, unbiased. But I think me being a new collector and figuring about Hodinkee through you and through other people and just watching a lot of their content, it is nice to have someone who is reputable and also be able to have a lot of influence, and also have a lot of other people who are influential on the platform speak about watches, because it garners a bigger attention span, right? Like, most people don't care about talking about watches until someone they look up to talks about a watch on their wrist. That's kind of what starts, a love or affinity. It's how most people start watch collecting. In that nature, it's still, at its core, Hodinkee is still good, and I'm still going to be watching them regardless. But in the back of my head, I'm always going to feel like there's a little bit of a bias with every watch review that comes out. Like, if they release something new, Rolex release something new, they have their hands on it, then I'm not going to feel like this is going to be a 100% transparent review. I'm probably going to have to watch another independent, creator talk about the same watch just to feel better about it.
So you're speaking to the same thing that I feel as well.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, Hodinkee is very entertaining, and they make really, really good, high-polished content on YouTube, and they have amazing writers over there that produce really good articles and reviews.
Yeah.
So with that in mind, I will continue being a consumer of Hodinkee for sure. It's going to be more entertainment value for me.
Yeah.
And like you said, I'm going to be cross-checking that
100%.
with other sources, not just relying on what they have to say.
If we were bought out by Hublot, like everyone says we were for those videos, like, you're going to think, oh, all they're going to do is talk highly about Hublot, never critique. But that's not our goal. Our goal is to be independent creators that talk about our opinions on different watches. And Hodinkee has kind of lost that edge now. You're always going to have to cross-check them. Yeah,
you're absolutely right. So with that being said, why in the world Watches of Switzerland buy Hodinkee? Why?
Good question.
Right? So I think here's what they gain. They bought it at a discount, so they were able to acquire a large brand, maybe the largest well-known brand in watch collecting.
Yeah.
So they were able to acquire that brand recognition immediately through this purchase at a discount. And I think the other thing is they still hold very strong intellectual property. Think about talking watches and how huge that is. Mm-hmm. So now they own that, right?
Yeah.
So that is a big benefit to them. So I think what they bought was opportunity to bring Hodinkee back as the most respected name in watch reviews.
Yeah.
Again, time will tell on that, but that's what I believe is the reason that they purchased Hodinkee.
Yeah, I agree. And I think a big part of that is Ben Clymer's statement, right? Like saying, hey, listen, I wasn't as involved as I needed to be. I had to take some time off. I'm coming full swing as CEO. I'm going to be, heading this operation of Hodinkee in the editorial side. You guys have my trust. You have the confidence in me. A lot of people love Ben in general.
I love Ben.
He has a big affinity with the watch community.
Yeah.
And it has nothing to do with him. It has more to do with the company that it's become, Hodinkee, and all the external and the being super commercialized for such a long time, and now trying to move back to the roots. So I think this was a politically like a smart move to Ben to release a statement and come back as CEO. But also I hope that, and I think everyone's hoping that this is a true shift to, hey, listen, we're not gonna be biased. Don't be afraid. We're still gonna release really good content for you guys and be straightforward.
Is this the end of Hodinkee, or is there hope for the future?
Yeah.
And with this acquisition, I know that this money is going to bring stability to the organization, which I think is very important.
Yeah.
I think probably once they started laying off staff and they were bleeding money, I think that that's been a very unstable environment for them for the last year and a half, almost 2 years maybe. And this is providing stability for them, and that will allow them to focus on creating the very best content, reviews, and news articles.
Right.
So I do think that that's a positive. So there's hope there for the future. Now, is this the end for Hodinkee? Listen, if they stumble again, if they get off base with their articles, if people believe that they are indeed biased reviews or, heaven forbid, paid reviews, then this is their last opportunity.
Yeah.
And this, I believe, would be the end for Hodinkee.
Yep.
They may survive another year and a half or 2 years.
I completely agree with
they
that.
will fizzle out. So this is very pivotal moment for them, and it's extremely important that they get it right.
All that to say is, if Hodinkee does fail, Ben Clymer, you can start your own channel, and I think a lot of people would love that, and maybe even join the Watch Bros one day.
Man, that may be his backup plan. But I relate this. I think about Apple. I relate this to Steve Jobs. Steve Jobs, founder, started Apple. He grew that brand. Then he was actually pushed out as CEO. Then he went off, did some other things that were successful. And when Apple was failing, they called back on that original visionary.
Yeah.
That strong visionary, brought him back in, and he was able to turn Apple around. I believe that's what Hodinkee is doing here. Ben stepped away. And it's a smart statement by him also, because he's kind of washing his hands of, hey, there's been all of this failure and this dysfunction and this loss of focus. That all happened while I wasn't there.
Yeah.
That's basically what he's saying.
Yeah.
And now he's saying, I'm going to come back, refocus the brand, and I'm going to deliver the content that you were used to prior to 2020.
Right.
Right? So with that being said, I do think that there is hope for them, and I hope that this is not the end. Well, listen, we want you guys to share your thoughts with us. Do you think this is a positive move for Hodinkee, or do you believe this is the beginning of the end? Honestly, please comment below. We want to get some comments going around this, and we want to hear what your thoughts are.
Yeah. Hopefully it doesn't crash and burn. Hopefully everything turns out all right. And if they do, well, honestly, it was given to them. They have the chance to succeed. So.
They do, yeah. All right. Until next time, we'll see you.
See ya.